Okay, I think I'm live. All right, so give me just a minute. Let me get my audio sorted out. Okay, it looks like it's working. Yeah, okay, audio's good. All right, let me just detangle this cord a bit and we'll get started. I'm here. All right, let me move everything where I can see it, in case you guys start sending in questions in chat. See if I can fix the lighting a little bit too. It's too shiny, isn't it? All right. So, I'm not going to fit in frame very good. So, welcome to my very first live reloading bench. Camera's over here. Sorry. It's a little crude. That's my phone over there, and I'm using my headset to my computer over there, which you can't see. Anyway, today I just thought I would do like a live Q&A session with you guys. We talk about reloading sometimes. Not necessarily sure if you're going to see me, but it's more about the content, not just seeing my face or whatever. So I thought what I would do is hold a Q&A session for those of you who either are new to this or want to maybe start reloading. The benefits, obviously, are you can tune your loads to pretty much anything you want, and you can usually save quite a bit of money. For instance, if I bought a box of, say, 20 rounds of Smith & Wesson 500 Magnum, you're looking at $40 to $70 a box, depending on what you get, weight, and manufacture and whatnot. Whereas I've gotten the reloading down to, I think it's 23 cents a round, maybe 18. It's been a while since I actually checked into that. But anyway, there's more advantages, obviously. It's a tedious process, yes. There's a learning curve to it, but it's really not that bad. Pretty much anyone can do this. But anyway, I've been trying to send 454 Casull loads to Jimmy James, and they keep bouncing back. My boss put the wrong zip code on the packages, so I'm almost out of brass. But I've got just enough to do the last 20 rounds that I'm going to send him. Unfortunately, I've only got 5 of these left. These are the Hornady XTP 300 grains. And then for the rest, I'll be using, this is heavy, Swamp Popper powder coated lead round nose 230 grains. So we'll get to that in a minute. Most of your basic tools I've got are right here. So you need a press, obviously. I tend to use a powder drop. This is a Lee Perfect powder measure. It's pretty accurate within 1/10 of a grain, plus or minus. So I'm comfortable with this. I used to do it the old scoop and scale method, but now what I do is I test the drop several times on a digital scale, and then once it's good, I just feed the rounds into the cone one at a time and load them. I'm going to do this in a way that most people probably aren't used to seeing. I do like to do multiple processes at once. So when I get to the powder drop part, it'll be powder drop, bullet seeding. Yeah, I think that's how I do it. Anyway, so yeah, shell holder's nice for, taking your completed rounds, having them sitting aside, ready to go. And that way, before you actually start your work, you can check and make sure all the powder drops are the same in every casing. Scale, obviously. You can use the beam scale method. I've actually used this enough times to trust it. I have the beam scale below here. But yeah, then you just need casings, which these were brass that I cleaned, decapped, resized before it actually went into here. Well, I wet tumbled them, decapped, resized, in exactly the opposite of that order. I decapped, resized, then I wet tumbled, then I dried them. Here they are, good to go. With most straight-walled pistol caliber cartridges, trimming is not usually a big deal. When you get to like bottleneck rifle cartridges, it's a really big deal. But when it comes to these, they hardly ever stretch. And every time I've actually run these, it's never been a problem. So I didn't trim them, but I've only fired them twice. So I mean, they probably didn't go very far anyway. Then you need your projectiles. Obviously, I showed you these already. Primers, I'm using CCI, small pistol, Magnum primers, and obviously your dice set. So this is the parts of reloading that tend to get a little expensive, but you only have to buy once, cry once. So this Rock Checker 4 was about $140 new, and then this Lee Perfect Powder Measure actually came as part of a kit. I bought the Lee Breech Lock kit a couple of years ago. Got the whole kit for, at the time, it was a good deal. It was like $220. Now you can get them for about $140. So, you know, if you're looking to start, that is a really good set. I actually put the part numbers in one of my other reloading videos. So if you want to see that, all the part numbers are there. And then if you're curious about this bench, I've got all the part numbers for that too. It's in the video that's titled Reloading in Tight Spaces or something like that. So I'm going to use the Lee 454 Casull die set. It's a 3-die set, comes with the shell holder, which is nice. One of the things I complained about with RCBS dies and who else? Well, RCBS dies for sure. They don't come with the damn shell holder. So it's nice that they give you these. Just run it up into my die like so. And let's see, we've already decapped and resized, so I won't even need the first die. Next die is going to be the flare die. Powder I'm running today is Accurate number 9. This stuff is potent, and it smells like pepper. Kind of strange. And before you even get started, the first thing you need to do is, you know, whip out your load table. So I use a Lyman 49th edition, but I've got a 50th on the way, and I like to cross-reference between different load tables just to see, you know, the opinions of others, I guess is a good way to put it. The lead load tables are not, sorry, the Lyman load tables are very conservative compared to, say, Hodgdon's or Hogdon's, however you want to pronounce it. But I've pretty much done this loading several times already. I call it the blue pill. It's the most powerful 454 load I run for the 300 grain. But a good practice is make yourself a cheat sheet or a recipe card. So I know it's hard to see in the camera, but I put both loadings that I'm going to do today in here. Essentially, you know, I'm just going to run through the process. If anyone's got questions, they can ask either at gunchannels.com. I've got the Gun Channels chat open on gunchannels.com/reload. And I've got the chat running over at YouTube also, so I can keep my eye on both. If you want to join the panel and actually just, you know, talking live or whatever, you're more than welcome to do so. But I mean, I'm only going to run this for about maybe an hour because I'm only doing 20 rounds. This is pretty much just for Jimmy today. So with that being said, let's get started, shall we? I'll keep an eye on the chat while I'm doing this. I'll try to explain what I'm doing as I'm doing it. I don't have to use the Rock Checker today for the 454 round because these are twice fired. They're actually more pliable than like new brass, but I just didn't want to swap it over, so I haven't used this in a while anyway. And I'll be priming from the priming arm attached to the press because it actually works pretty well. You got a big handle here. It's a weighty throw, and you can kind of finesse it in with the palm of your hand or whatever. So that part's not that big of a deal. First thing I probably want to do, since I've already got cleaned and prepped brass, is I'm going to go ahead and bell the cases. Now I am running 2 recipes today. So we're going to do the blue pills first, since I've already got them out. And then I'll walk you through how I dial this in. But the first thing I want to do is I want to go ahead and run my shell all the way up to the top. I'm going to run the die down just until it starts to touch the top of the case. I'll back it off just a hair, put a quarter turn in, run it, take it out. And essentially what I do is I just take the bullet and I just see if it fits. You just want it to barely fit in there. So I had no give, so I'll do another quarter turn. We'll just run it again. Nothing yet. Take your time with this process. You don't want to over-bell your cases because then you'll actually stress the brass. And I like nickel-plated brass, so I try not to overwork it. You don't need a radical bell. You just want the bullet just to sit in there. That, and if it's belled out too far and you run it up into the crimp die, that belling will work against the crimp die and scrape the sides, and it makes it really difficult to actually work the press in. So you just want to do it just enough where you get the desired effect, I guess is a good way to put it. It's slowly starting to bell. I'm kind of paranoid when it comes to this, so I'll do it as many times as necessary. It's starting to feel a little bit tight, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just loosely put the lock ring down, because I think this is about where I need it anyway. Maybe a little more. But we're almost there. Go ahead and lock this down again. It's getting tight, so I mean, I know I'm close. Okay, so we're in. Looks like this. It just barely touches, it like barely fits inside. That's all you want. You don't want it, so ridiculously open that it just drops in there. And somewhere, I have it right here. Need one of these. Big fucking wrench. Just to tighten it down. Not gorilla tight or anything. I just let the weight of the wrench pretty much lock it in. That's all. All right, so I've got the first casing the way I need it. And I'll go ahead and drop 10 primers at a time out of the tray. Well, 20, I guess. Shit. Go here. Basically, drop the primer in, anvil up, obviously, and then it pretty much centers itself here in the die, and you just push. You'll feel it go in 2-3 millimeters at the most at the handle, just and that's it, and back it off. Pull it out, check your work. What you want to make sure is this primer is just touching underneath the head stamp. You want it below the head stamp because you don't want this actually sticking out. You want the firing pin to reach down into it. So that's one completed belled and prime case. So this will go here as they're ready to go. And we just repeat the process. So I know it's not glamorous or anything, but it is what it is. Run it up through here, give it a little bump. I'll test them every once in a while just to make sure that I didn't overdo it. See, that's how you want it right there. You don't want it to go all the way down. You just want it to just fit inside. I saved these nickel-plated cases for last because I wasn't sure if they were going to make it to Jimmy in time. So then I went and I bought another box of Winchesters just so he can have nickel-plated brass back. He sent these to me. Anytime, if you want to ask a question, go ahead and do it. I mean, I can keep an eye on the chat through here. So if there's anything I might be leaving out or something that you might be curious about just while I'm doing this in general, then, ask away and I can answer it for the most part. But It is monotonous. It's a slow, tedious, monotonous process. And the key to consistent loads is being consistent with the process. I mean, I know it sounds cliche and everything, but it really is exactly that. You know, you want everything to be uniform. You want everything to be the same. You want everything to go nice and easy. I did a brake job yesterday, and it was the opposite of consistent. It was crap. Like, I'm surprised my hands even work right now because I used an impact driver for so long that I felt like I broke my hand. Not that that's any, not that it matters, but yeah, if anybody wants to know how to do brakes on a Mini Cooper, send me a message. I'll tell you all the extra tools you're going to need to do it. I see you out there, Squib. We originally started this channel on gun channels for people like me and Foos and Tony to run these chats. And we were going to do a weekly reloaders bench. But I mean, to be perfectly honest, the only person who can shoot enough rounds and reload enough rounds to do this on a consistent basis is probably Foos. And I haven't seen him on a whole lot these days, but he also is a competition shooter, so he needs his time. All right, so I'm on the brass cases now. These are genuinely the same size. The Winchesters, just to show you. See, nice and snug, tight fit. It almost sounds like when you open up, well, never mind. People are going to wonder how I knew that. It'll make a popping noise, sort of like opening a, I don't know, like opening one of those caps of chapstick. You hear that kind of noise if you do it just right. It doesn't have to be, you know, ultra tight or anything. Sorry if you hear any buzzing noises. I got a window unit air conditioner right on the other side. Central air is great and all, but sometimes in older houses in Texas, it needs a little bit of help, so. So Jimmy's going to get, he has a Taurus Raging Bull. He was looking for a large caliber or a large bore handgun, and we went through a list of Smiths, and I told him, I said, you know, just because it's made by Taurus, it's not necessarily a bad thing. You know, they've made Raging Bulls and Judges and revolvers in general for so long that, you know, they know how to do it. They're not going to screw it up or anything. So I said, if you find a good one or one for a good price, I said, you know, don't be afraid to buy it. And I did let him know. I'm like, it's going to be down a round. It's a 5-round cylinder instead of a 6. And as luck would have it, one just happened to show up at his local. So he bought it, polished it, loved it. I sent him a care package the first time. And at the time, I only had 2 of the blue pill. But he was welcome to them. I sent them to him, and he loved it. And he sent me a video of him popping watermelons or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what it would do, Gallagher. And he said, if you can make me more blue pills, you know, please do. So I told him I had a few left. The first time I sent him, I made him 10 each time the first 3 times. And I still haven't gotten them back from the U.S. Postal Service. So I've got 30 of those out there somewhere. And now this time I've only got 5 left, so he gets the last 5. I was going to send him my Remington AccuTip bullets, but I haven't shot the ones I've made before yet. So, well, the last set I made, I haven't shot any yet. So I don't want to send it to him untested. I will only send you reloads if I've shot them before myself repeatedly. Usually if I send someone a reload that I made, it's going to be something I've shot a lot, like a whole lot. It's my regular cheat sheet. Like, here's a good example. This is some already made 454s. Well, let me give you this one. This is a complete set of already made 454s. And as you can see in here, is the recipe box or the recipe card, because I use roughly the same recipe every single time. Once I find a loading I like that's accurate enough, clean enough, that works, then I'll just repeat it. You know, it's like I don't have to make the most powerful load or whatever. I'm not about that. Like, if I want more powerful, I'll shoot my 500, which is back here somewhere underneath this. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I got 8 more. Yeah, screw it. I'll load those 2. So he'll get 20, and I'll keep the last 8. As soon as I can remember where I left the rest of the primers. Right here. So anyway, as I was saying, the initial layout for reloading is pricey. Not prohibitively expensive, it's just pricey. You know, for the price of getting a really decent setup. This is a single stage press because I don't shoot or load enough to really warrant a progressive. I want one, but I'm not in a hurry for it. But I mean, a complete setup like this, bench and everything, you know, reloading components, like, you know, these are 45s, these are 357s. These are some really old Spear 38 wad cutters from like the 60s. These are my 500 Ranger Ricks. I get these from Matt's Bullets. This place is awesome. But anyway, you get the point. For your first caliber, because my first caliber was 44 Magnum. So for your first reloading caliber, the entire setup, you're probably looking at like, well, by today's standards, maybe only about $350. So for the price of a really cheap used Glock, you can have all of this, and then you can feed whatever you shoot. So I got into this because 44 Magnum is, well, when I bought my gun 8, 9 years ago, I didn't like paying $50 for a box of ammo or $60 for a box of 50 or something like that. And I'm like, that's a bit expensive. You know, I didn't get to shoot as much as I wanted to. And then you would go on somewhere like Midway USA and you can buy 100 rounds of brass for $25. I'm like, hey, that ain't bad. And then the primers come in, you can get them in those little wafer trays like this, where there's 100 in them, and they're like $3. Or if you want to save money, buy in bulk. So you get a brick like this. There's 1,000 in here. There's 10 packs of those 100s. And then you can buy them in, what is it, 10,000? So you get 10 boxes of those 10 bricks with 10 packages of 100 in there. So, I mean, it gets cheaper in bulk, obviously. Oh, hi, Smeggy. All right, so let me finish loading up these last 8. Or, sorry, let me finish belling and priming these last 8. And I'm not like forcing anything. There's a little bit of pressure involved, but I mean, it's like, I'm not a big guy. Like, I think at the biggest I was 194 pounds, and I lost 25 pounds since November because I had a health issue. But I mean, it's just, you know, I can do this with the palm of my hand, just push, and it's it. It's in there. It's good to go. You see a little mark here? I had an accident where when I was working on the Mini yesterday, the wrench, one of the things I pride myself on being a mechanic, which this is sort of a mechanical process, but you know you're getting good at something when you can stop cutting yourself. It's great. But the wrench slipped off the nut yesterday that I was working on, and I ended up punching myself right in the face. Like right across the nose. And the guy was doing the brake job before. He's 72 years old, and he heard it. He heard the impact on my face from my own fist, and I just heard him go, "Ooh." And he looked over at me. He's like, "Are you okay?" I just kind of looked at him with one eye. I was like, "Yeah." It was bad. It was swollen a lot worse too. But I got over it. I think Mark from CN Arsenal said it best. If you're going to be dumb, you better be tough. I toughed it out. Last one. I know you see a couple. You might see a couple in there, but those are 45 Colts. I was going to do 3 calibers, but this is going to run way longer than I planned on running this if I did. So we're only doing the Casulls today. If more people are interested in Q&As or whatnot with this, feel free. Just let me know if you're interested in that kind of thing. I can do another one of these maybe next week or maybe somewhere in the middle of the week. I don't know what my schedule looks like yet, but we can do that. That's cool. I don't mind. This is just a cheapy little flashlight down here. Yeah, I use this to light up the bore after I clean revolvers and shit. Okay, so the next thing I need to do, first of all, is turn off my ceiling fan, and I'll explain why as we go. It's gonna get warm in here, but there's a reason I did that. This digital scale is so sensitive that if that fan is on, it will literally push down on this plate and it'll throw the calibration off by 0.3 of a grain, which in bigger loadings, that's kind of a big deal. So you don't want any circular air coming down on your scale if you're using a digital. If you're using a balance beam, it's probably a little more resistant to this crap, but I just shut it off. So anyway, the next thing I need to do is I need to dial my powder throw here, which I've not done yet. I think the last loading I did with this perfect powder measure was a 30-30. So what I'll probably do, and I always do this anyway, put the, make sure it's clean. Now, this is what came with the scale. It's like a piece of stamped aluminum or whatever. And one thing that a lot of folks ask is, or run into, is they'll put their powder in this, and some of the grains of the powder will stick. So then you have to sit there and tap on it or whatever, get all the powder out. That's annoying. Found a little trick. What you do is you take an old dryer sheet and you just rub it on inside like this. Doesn't really build up a static charge or anything. It's a fabric softener. It does something here. Maybe it does build static or something. I'm not really sure, but you just rub it in there like this. And it cleans it out too, if you've got like residual, fine powder or whatever. I just clean it out like so. Stick it on your scale, power it on, wait for the numbers, and it should zero out. Now, if it doesn't right away, just hit your tare button. It'll go to 0 there. All right, so the last thing I loaded in here used a different kind of powder. AA9 is a very fine grain powder. So what I'll probably do first, just to see where I'm at so I know where to adjust, is I'm gonna open the hopper so it can feed in the throw. And I'm just gonna run what I've got here already, just to see what I've got. All right, so I'm at 19.8 grains and I'm working my way towards 25.9. For a pistol round, that actually is quite a bit. For AA9, that is a lot. A lot. So I'm going to loosen up the meter, and I'm going to run the stem out a little bit. Screw it back in, lock it down, run it again. One thing you're probably going to see me do is I'm going to open it, tap it, close it, tap it, just to get any like residual trickle out. 24.5. The other thing that you might notice I'm doing that I'm not even talking about doing is you'll see me wiggle the tray ever so slightly to get everything in the center of the bowl. This powder is actually so fine that it's still sticking to the metal bowl, by the way. I might just need a new dryer sheet, but I'm gonna wiggle it. Wiggle. Try to get it all in the center. 25.9. All right, so it's locked in at the weight I want, but never go with the first measurement. Check it 3-4 times if you have to. What you don't want is having the first throw light and everything else really heavy. 25.8. So, like I was saying earlier, this will plus or minus 1/10 of a grain. I can live with that. Most reloaders can live with that. If you are a match shooter or something like that and you can't live with that, that's fine. You can go the scoop and scale method. I do that with most of my range ammo that I, play golf with. 25.9. All right, so I'm satisfied with the weight coming out of this. I know I only did it 3 times, but it's minusing 1/10, not going over. So I can live with that. All right, so this is where things start to speed up. This is where I do a lot of things at once. Yeah, AA9 is accurate 9. So the first thing I'm going to do is take this belling die out, because I don't have that thing that attaches to this to do the powder drop while you bell and all that. That's a little more than I want to do in one step. This is a lead 3 die set. So the bullet seating and crimping is a dual thing. It does both. Where the 4 die set, I think they call it the master set, comes in a yellow plastic box. It does the seating with 1 die and the crimping with another. It uses a Lee factory crimp die. But generally what I do is I just back the stem all the way out. All the way out. Like way, way out. Almost, well, it's going to come out, but pretty much all the way out, right? Then we'll just feed it in here. All right. So this is where you need a couple of things to happen at once. You need your cheat sheet because you need your overall length. And in my case, the overall length for this 454 loading is 1.745 inch. This will save your life. This is a digital caliper. And you can zero it out every time you use it or whatever. I think I paid like $5 for this at Harbor Freight. Every reloading supplier, Franklin and Lee and all of them, they all have almost this exact same one with just their name on it. So Chicago Tool or whatever this was at Harbor Freight, $5, works great, works every time. So you need one of these. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of my cases. I'm going to throw a powder charge directly in the case. So verify that it's in there. Take my bullet. Seat it on the top. Like so. All right. So the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to run the bullet all the way at the top of the throw. And I'm going to run the die just until it touches and then back it off. I don't want to crimp yet. I'm going to lock it down just by hand. Like so. Verify that I'm not crimping. Run it back up, and then turn the seating stem down till it starts to touch the bullet. So I'm stuck here. It's not going anywhere. Back it off, turn it, push the bullet down into the casing. You'll slowly see it start to go in. Now, we obviously have a long way to go. The cantilever is way up here. So, I mean, you can do like a full turn and a half, the first time or two. Yeah, see, that was like a turn and a half. Now, one thing I didn't show you guys, I can do it now. It's not a big deal. I'll take it out. I don't know if this is going to show up on camera, but here's the seating stem. Yeah, I see that line right there? I just take a red Sharpie and I put a line at the top like that. And so that way I can sort of keep track of how far I'm tightening the screw. I can count quarter, eighth, 16th turn, stuff like that, right? So now I had to run it back up until this touches the bullet to pick up where I left off. I should have showed you that before. All right, so right now I'm sort of at like 10 o'clock. So I'm gonna just run it a full turn until it's 10 o'clock again. That's just Sharpie permanent market. I mean, it's not a big deal. Do it again. Okay, we're getting close. Now, not every bullet you're gonna load is gonna have a cantilever, obviously. Like for instance, the Swamp Popper bullets that I run don't. It's just a lead cast bullet, and it's got an ogive mark right there. But there's no cantilever. So in this case, I can usually just run it to the cantilever and then be done with it. But if you don't have one, then what you want to do is when you start thinking you're close, whip out your caliper, power it on, zero it out, make sure it's set to inches, and then measure your bullet end to end. 1.880. So obviously we're way out. I'm going for 1745, which is going to be right about where that cantilever is. So I'm getting close. I'm going to start doing it a half turn at a time only. Now I'm going to go about a third of a turn at a time. You really don't want to overshoot. You overshoot, it's going to piss you off. Because then you're going to have to whip out one of these. This is a kinetic hammer, bullet puller. And you're going to want to start over. So you want to try to avoid that. Undershoot it as many times as you need to. Overshoot it, bad day. All right, so I'm at the base of the cantilever now, so I'm going to just start looking at this. I'm at 1793. So now you want to do very, very subtle adjustments. Because you're not going to go to the top of the cantilever. Maybe. Cantilever's got some width to it. I mean, I could, but I'm trying to stick to the recipe. 774. .765. And I'll tell you what I'm going to do. My recipe calls for 1745. I'm going to stop it 5 thousandths short. 1750. And I'll tell you why. Because this always happens to me. Always. 1750. Okay. So I'm 5 thousandths longer than my recipe. Now, there's a reason I do this, and this is why. If you look now, there's still a little bit of cantilever showing, which is fine. Because what's about to happen is, now I have to back the seating stem all the way back out. Okay? And I'm going to loosen this. And now I'm only going to do the crimp. No seating. Like I could take this out, but I'm going to leave it here. Do I have a press-mounted puller? No. I use the kinetic hammer. Which drives my dogs crazy because it hits the carpet, hits the foundation, and like it's a sonar beacon. I hit the foundation here, and my dog all the way across the house can hear it, and he starts barking, thinking someone knocked on the door. It's great. All right, so I'm going to run the bullet all the way back up. Loosen the lock ring a bit more. There's an O-ring in here if you're wondering why I'm actually struggling to turn this. So you can make finer adjustments. All right, it just touched the bullet. Now, the other thing I didn't show you, let me grab a different die set, and I'll show you that so I don't have to mess with this one. Oh shit, I didn't do it on this one. Usually I take a Sharpie. I didn't do it to this one because I've only loaded twice with it, so I probably haven't done it yet. Usually what I'll do is I'll take the Sharpie and I'll mark the top of the lock ring too. Like this one has it right here at 12 o'clock. I took a black Sharpie, I made a line on the top of the lock ring. That way I can see, I can count how many times I turn that side too. Clever, right? So right now I'm just touching the bullet. I'm gonna back it off. I'm gonna turn it a quarter turn, so the dot on my lock ring only went a quarter of a turn. And then I'm gonna just bump the handle. I'm not crunching down on it. I'm just bumping the handle until it bottoms out. You don't want to force it, especially if you use Rainier bullets, because Rainier bullets have no give whatsoever. You will crush the casing hydraulically before you crimp into a Rainier bullet every time, guaranteed. All right, so what you're trying to do here with the crimp, doing another quarter turn, run the die up, you'll feel it start to squeeze. You'll feel a little resistance on the handle. You only want a little resistance on the handle. You don't want it to feel like you're crushing the world or something under your boot. Because, okay, it's starting to crimp. I'll show you what it looks like here in a minute. With my 454, it has to be tight. This is the only round I've ever fired that actually had crimp jump. Back it off just a hair. See, it's fighting back really hard right now, so I'm trying to be careful not to overdo it. I don't want to ruin these cases. Okay, so that's where it bumped. It was basically an eighth of a turn from the last time. I'm pretty confident that this is going to be right where I want it, so I'm going to go ahead and lock this down. So I'm locking down the crimp setting right here. Yeah, that's beautiful. All right, not sure how well this is going to show up, but if you look very carefully, it tapers inward toward the cantilever, ever so slightly, to the eye. It's actually quite a bit in there. You need it to dig into the cantilever like that, because every time you fire a heavy round like this, all the other bullets in that cylinder, the casings get rocked back from the recoil, and the bullet, being the heaviest part of the entire unit, stays still longer. So all this reacts backwards, and this stays in place, which is what crimp jump is. And then when it settles back in, because it headspace is on the rim, it slowly moves forward. The bullet moves forward. And then it ends up screwing with the timing. And when the bullet rotates into the forcing cone and it stops, your gun locks up. And then you have that very peculiar and nervous situation where you've got to hold your gun straight up and tap that bullet back down somehow to unlock the cylinder to take it back out. That happened to me. It scared the shit out of me. Anyway, this is a completed bullet. What I usually do when I'm not wearing a headset is I'll shake it, hear the powder charge in there, and this one's done. So that can go back in here as a finished bullet. But before I do that, we got the crimp setting in. It's done. Now, you turn the stem back down to where it's just touching that bullet, because everything is right where you want it. So now the crimp is locked in, the bullet seating is locked in. Then you back it off. I guarantee you what always happens to me is when I do the crimp, the bullet gets sucked in a little bit. And now 1.747. So I'm only 0.02 over my overall length. But it always happens. When you crimp with the bullet seat, it always seems to like suck the bullet in just a hair, and then you end up going under your overall length, which, you know, maybe 2 or 3 thousandths is not a big deal, but that's a little extra pressure spike that you may or may not need. So just save yourself the nightmare. All right, so the next one, this is easy. So I'm going to explain everything this just did in one process, and this is how I usually load. So I load the powder, verify that it's in there, grab the bullet, stick it in there, run it through the die, seat, and crimp. Lift, completed bullet, job done. That's why I do it that way. That's why I call myself a lazy reloader, because all the last steps can be done all at once. The way I used to do it is I would load every case with powder first, then I would look down into the loading tray, make sure they were all uniform and level, and then I would bullet seat and crimp all at once, which that is a correct way to do it. That is a proper way to do it. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just I know what that load looked like the first time. So every time I do it, I just run it in here, tap my die, tap my powder drop, look in there again. I know what it looks like because it looked just like the one I did before it. Run it in here. You want to seat that bullet as straight as possible too. Like that one went in a little crooked. And what can happen is if it just catches just right, it'll rip down on that brass and crinkle it to one side. So you do want that seated as straight as possible before you run it up the die. And you just run it in here. You could feel the bullet seat. I'm not pushing very hard right now. Like I'm just kind of, where's the camera? I'm just kind of putting my hand down, just kind of letting the weight of my hand do it. And then when you get to the very end, you'll just feel this little bump, and that's it. Completed bullet. Completed bullet. 300 grain monster hollow point. It's only got 4 cuts in it. This thing is devastating, especially on hogs. It's amazing. All right. So these are the blue pills. What I usually do is I mark the primers once I'm finished with them. So that way there's no mistaking this. But since they're 2 different projectiles, I don't think I have to do that. That's the part I need to set up, seat and crimp. Oh, yeah, no problem, man. This is exactly how I do it every time. And then, you know, what I'll also do is every couple of rounds, I'll just re-verify my overall length. So they're still coming in at between 1.749 and 1.747, so they're going to work every time. Especially since the Casull cylinder is a lot longer anyway. Verify, bullet. Crimp, seat. Job done. I think job done? Yeah. I think I'm lagging or something. My camera's kind of acting up over there. Job done. All right. So I'm only doing 5 of that particular loading. So what I'm going to do is I don't have a, what do they call them? Go, no go gauge or whatever the hell you want to call it. So what I usually do in this situation is I just see if it fits in the gun I'm going to shoot it out of. So, for those of you who've never seen this, welcome to my Super Ruger Redhawk Alaskan. Polished, very shiny, in 454 Casull. Beautiful. This is a Generation 2 model. The nanny state crap is written very fine print along the bottom. You can't even see it in the camera. I love this thing. This is the gun that The Rock used in the movie Faster. I fell in love with it the minute I saw it. Look at that top strap. Look at that. Look at that. So anyway, here's our new loadings. I just drop them in the cylinder to make sure they're not binding. Nice and easy, right? Smooth. And basically, just check the other side of the cylinder. Look how close that is. Right on the end. Right where they need to be. Beautiful. So these are for you, Jimmy. I hope you enjoy them. These are the longest of the rounds I'm making today, by the way. That's my go, no-go gauge. I know someone's going to be like, oh my God, you're going to shoot yourself. I'm like, I didn't even close the cylinder, bruh. And for those of you who are wondering, yes, I do carry this gun in the winter. In Texas, in a shoulder rig. Because why not? And yes, it does have 454 Casull rounds in it when I carry it. Sometimes. But they're smaller. They're 240 grains. They're the same 240 grain hollow point that I run when I load 45 Colts. It's a Hornady XTP. So anyway, that's those. I don't have a set of go and no go. That is literally how I test it every time. I'm like, what better way to test it than to fit it in the weapon you're going to use it in? Anyway, so now I've got some rounds left. Got to clean my powder drop here. That AA9 is so fine grained, like it's dust. That's why it burns so well, though. All right, so the next loading I'm going to do with this caliber is the 454 Swamp Popper. I found these at my local reloader supply. I believe these are made in, I want to say these are made in Louisiana. I could be wrong. Link for the maker of this. It's really heavy, by the way. Backwatershooters.com. All one word. And they come in a variety of colors. These just happen to be black powder coat with yellow flecks, if you want to call them that. I don't know how well that's coming out, but I hope you can see that. So we're going to load these. I've got 5, 10, 15, 23 to go. So let's get all our little soldiers lined up. I usually just leave the box somewhere and reach in there, but that's a really heavy box because I've hardly used these. This is like the third box of these I've gotten. And they shoot really well. They group really, really well. You know, you look at a hard cast bullet and you're like, oh, is this going to foul your barrel or anything? The answer, no. You can take one of these, put it on a piece of concrete, and smash it with a hammer, and this powder coat will not yield. It will contain the lead after you smash it. That's a great bullet. All right, 15. If you guys have any questions, now's a really good time to ask while I'm setting this up, by the way. Kind of annoyed. None of y'all joined my lobby, but you're all here. Glad to have you, though. Y'all missed the Cold War special today. I was playing Cold Waters. Five, 10, 15, 23. Oh, overshot. All right. So the process is basically going to be the same. I have to make some adjustments because obviously my overall length. Actually, no. The way I set this up is the overall length is going to be exactly the same. So they're going to be 1.45, even though it's a lighter bullet, because the difference, and Jimmy may notice this. Generally, when you have a heavier bullet, you use a lighter powder charge. Then a lighter bullet, you put a heavier powder charge. So these 300 grain bullets used about 26 grains. But these 230 grain bullets, because there's more case volume now, I can put 28 grains in here. So this may actually kick harder for him. And he may like these more. And I can make tons of these because I've got 2,000 of these right now. So we're good there. So the process is more or less the same. What I'm going to do this time, think about it for a minute. The only thing I have to do right now is re-verify my powder throw to 28 grains. So let's start with that first. I'm going to open this up, dial the stem out a little bit. Get my scale back up and running. Kind of nice. I mean, if you don't use it for like 3 minutes, it shuts off to save the battery. And then we'll do a powder throw. Wiggle, wiggle. Oh, whoops. I forgot to zero it out with the tray on it. All right, now we're at 0. I threw that and it's at 156 grains. I'm like, no, no way. Don't think so. All right, 0.9 off. Now this loading here is actually about a grain shy of max, because when I saw the higher weight, knowing what this powder can do, I was like, no, I'm not going that far over. I'm about a grain shy of a max loading for this. Now, if he likes it and he wants it a little hotter, I'll do it. But for now, this is how I dial in. He told me hot loads. Like this is hotter than my range load, so that's why I'm kind of winging it as I go. I think I overshot. I'm at 28 and a half. I want 20. Should do it. Yep, 28. All right, so we're now at 28 grains. The only thing I have to do differently now is reset the crimp and overall length, because these have already been flared, they've already been primed, they're all ready to go. The only thing I have to do is recalibrate for a shorter bullet overall, but to create the same overall length as the last loading I made. So I just back this off. And we start that process all over again. It's really not hard. There's not a whole lot to it. Grab a case. Verify the powder. Take the different bullet. Run it up the die. Make sure it's not touching anything. Screw this down until you feel it touch the top of the case. Back it off about a half a turn. Screw that back down, and then we'll start seating the bullet, and then we'll verify the length with the new bullet. I mean, maybe it would have done it the same length, but this is a shorter bullet, so I don't want to take the chance. I mean, this only takes a couple of minutes, so it's not a big deal. And now we're up here, there's no crimp, and I can start lowering the stem down until it touches the bullet, which it's just doing now. And then we'll start at half a turn. Verify the bullet's going in. Another half a turn. Another half a turn. And we're getting already to the point where it's at the ogive. The ogive, by the way, is, in case you don't know, got a round nose bullet, and it runs parallel, and then there's a point where the dome starts. So it's that meeting point where the dome meets the parallel. And you can almost see a line sometimes. Sometimes they cast it with a line. That's the ogive. That's usually where you crimp too. I gotta re-zero this. All right. So the magic number is 1.745 again. Right now I'm at 1825, so we got a ways to go. We'll go half a turn. Check it. Remember, don't overshoot this. Do this as many times as you have to, because you only got to do this once. Once you set it, then you're fine. Half a turn. Seven, 6. Quarter turn. 7, 5, 7. Eighth turn. 7, 5, 0. 7, 5, 2 actually. All right. 7, 4, 7, 5. Okay, that's good enough for me because, like I said, when I crimp, it's going to suck the bullet down a little bit. So, oh, Jimmy, you get to watch me make your bullets for the 4th time. All right. I'm happy with that. 17475. We're going to work our way down to 17450. When I crimp, it'll pull the bullet in just a hair. It'll probably make the length, if not be just a hair over it. But you saw the cylinder, it'll fit just fine. Now I'm going to back the crimp off again. Back the stem all the way out. What you don't want to do is run the crimp and think you had this out far enough. And then when you finally got the crimp, you just realized, oh shit, the bullet's all the way down in the bullet or in the casing. And you're like, well, break out that hammer because you're going to start over. Just take the stem all the way out. It only takes a couple extra seconds. Not a big deal. Run it to the top. Screw it back down until it touches. Look at your mark. I'm clocked at 9 o'clock. Do a quarter turn to noon. Feel it crimp. Back off and verify. It's just starting. Do another quarter turn. Now I'm at 3 o'clock. That's pretty tight, so I'm going to back off just a hair. 2 o'clock. I'm going to lock this down right here. You'll know what I mean when I said it's a bit too tight. Like you're not even ready for that last bump part of the throw, and it's already rock solid. You don't want that. You want it to feel tight as you're feeling that last little boop. It's like literally a quarter of an inch of that last little just boop. Lock it down with your wrench. Screw the stem down for the bullet seater. And we're crimped. This one's very slight because this bullet ogive is actually just a little bit further up than the overall length. So I'm digging in just before the ogive, which is fine. So anyway, Jimmy, if you weren't here earlier, these are your blue pill 300 grainers. I only had 5 left, but they're all yours. And then these are the Swamp Popper 230 grainers, which are pretty colors, just for you. Actually, since these are yours, I'll put them in this box, because this is the last 20 round box I've got. That one goes in here. Now, while I'm doing this, y'all can ask questions all you want. Like, I can see the screens from here. The YouTube side's easier to see because it's in big, bold print. But, I mean, I can see the gun channel side too, and nobody said nothing. But I appreciate you all watching. All right, so this is the first one after I set the die. So I'm going to just verify the length here. 17455. 17455. See that? Sucked it in just a hair. Told you it would. That's where I want it. That's where we like it. Good enough for me. 50 thousandths? Or wait, that's 500 thousandths? Not worried about it at all. Or no, that is 50 thousandths. Doesn't matter. Now these brass shells that I've used, they're very soft because I've used them many times. Like at least 2, maybe 3 times. Some of these Hornady ones, maybe more than that. So the crimp on this was easy, like soft and smooth. It didn't even fight back. Oh wait, why did I do that? I'm still using the nickel ones. We'll set that one aside. Yeah. Good and tight. I actually bought a box of Winchesters just so I can get nickel brass to give you back after the last set got lost. These are Winchesters. Yeah, these are Winchesters. They are a pretty nice case. The rims are minuscule. Very small compared to like a Starline. All right, go in there. You know, these Hornadies are actually a hair short. This can happen because I don't trim the cases, but they do feel a hair shorter than the Winchesters. I'm going to do something a little unusual here. Back the stem back off. I'm going to loosen this. And I am going to recrimp the brass one. Just a hair. I mean, it was only a 1/16 of a turn difference, I think. But that's the difference that it might make to keep it from crimp jumping. Yeah, that's a lot better. You can actually see it dig in now. I'll redo that one too. I mean, it was a tiny difference, but I didn't feel that little resistance at the very end that I'm used to. So went ahead and did it anyway. I know you can't see my arm do the final part of the throw, but it's literally just a 1/4 inch. It just goes from here and it just goes boom, and that's it. That's the crimp at work. You can feel that. All right, Squib. If your battery dies, thanks for coming. We'll probably do this again. Maybe I'll do 44 Magnum next. All right. Now, one thing you haven't noticed, or one thing that you may have noticed is I haven't ruined a single piece of brass doing this. Like I was saying, the trim thing on a straight wall case is not that important. Now, if you want to talk about necked cases, this is exactly how I learned how important trimming is. Because Squib sent me these. These are 30/30s, and these were shot before. And I ruined 6 of these. So then I went and I bought a Lyman case trimmer. Very important on a bottleneck case. Not so much on a straight wall. But that 1,000th or 2,000ths difference on a bottleneck case, big deal. Because that's 1,000th or 2 on the shoulder. And when you're crushing down on that shoulder, you're going to wrinkle everything below it. So it is important on those. 4570 doesn't give a shit. 500 Magnum doesn't care. 454, nah. 38 special, nope. 9mm, don't know, don't reload it. Too cheap to buy. And with that bullet, I have Jimmy James care package. Ta-da! Ain't that pretty? On its way to you, brother. Gonna handwrite the fucking label if I have to. I've got a couple left for myself. Now I'm gonna finish this out because there's one other thing I'm gonna do as part of the cleanup. Don't they? Yeah. Next time I buy them, I'm gonna get them to send me the blue and red ones. They call them the Liberty coating or something like that. It's blue with red flecks. It looks pretty good. The 38s I have, I think, are black and yellow also. If you live in the Houston area and you'd like to pick something up like these locally, I think my reloading supplier still carries them. They also carry Barry's bullets, which are a copper plated bullet. I'll show you what one looks like. They also carry these. And these are plated. I'll be doing these next week if we do another one of these. These are just, you know, plated 44 Magnum 240 grain. I'm going to try extreme bullets next time because Tony York over at Gun Channels was telling me that they actually do bother to put a cantilever in their plated bullets. That's pretty nice. I do want those. I want cantilevers in my plated bullets. I've used Rainiers, and they're a decent bullet. They shoot a good group and everything, but good God, are they hard on my press, and they're hard on my hands just to crimp because they have no give whatsoever. My perfect powder measures throw is a little gritty. I didn't know you actually had to oil those or anything. I didn't think you did, but that's why I'm using like my hand and just like clawing the whole armature. Usually I don't have to do that. It's kind of gritty. It might just be this powder because it's so fine. It's probably gumming it up a bit. All right, so I've got a couple extras for myself. All right, so that concludes the actual loading portion for 454 for today. What I usually do at this point is I go ahead and remove the die, get the shell holder back out, flip the armature back over because I'll probably need it for the next loading anyway. Cleanup is generally pretty easy for reloading. I mean, there's going to be some shake off your powder drop or whatever. I just usually vacuum it off or blow it off if it's not that much. But the important part is it's not that much. This is where this stand comes in really handy. You're going to love this. So this is actually a swivel base, weighted swivel base from an old 20-inch LCD monitor. It's really heavy on the bottom. And this is the part that you actually mounted to the monitor. So it would be facing straight up like this, the way I've got it oriented. But if you have an 8-pound keg, obviously you're not going to be able to get the powder back in here, right? Because it's still in here. So the first thing you do is you seal up your powder measure so it closes off the hopper. And I've got this neat little button right here. Push down, push the button, and oh, look at that. An 8-pound keg fits underneath this now. So I can dump like my unique back in it every time. Now with Accurate, I've only got a little 1-pound jar or whatever, but I just thought I would show you that because you can repurpose stuff, you know, for your bench. Because this was something that was going to throw away, but I was like, that's too nice to throw away. You know, it's got a really heavy weighted, like Lazy Susan type base. I thought that was really useful. So I already closed this. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm just going to dump the drop, the metering part of the drop. You got to do it a few times to get it all out, because you want it to clear the funnel too. And then once you're done with that, wiggle that out. That's empty because I did the throw so many times. You just put this in here, twist it open, and it just funnels right back in, see? That's how you keep your perfect powder measure clean. What was it? Rick Mitchell over Gun Channel. He hosts Rick's Life as I See It every Saturday, and he was asking me about this. He says, "Is it safe to leave your powder in the hopper after you're done loading if you're only going to use that one powder?" The short answer is no. The reason being is, look at every bottle of gunpowder you buy. It comes in a opaque black plastic container. Light does not get into this, ever. See? Give you another example of that. First powder I ever loaded with, IMR 4227. Military uses this. See? Black plastic, non-see-through. Maybe something a little larger. 8-pound keg of unique. Once again, not see-through. Basically, it's my understanding that you don't want light you don't want to expose your powder to light for a long period of time. Maybe there's UV degradation or whatever. That's the way they have it in all the containers. That's why you don't leave it in your hopper. Pretty much all there is to it. Besides, I just showed you how to empty it out really quick and easy. So it's not a big deal. That's pretty much it though. Cleanup wise, I mean, you know, everything goes back in little trays underneath here, but that's more or less how you reload 454 Casull. So if you guys have any questions before I wrap this up, feel free to ask. I'll let this run for a couple of minutes, but I mean, other than that, thanks for watching. And I encourage you all, if you are watching this on YouTube that aren't a part of Gun Channels, to come over to Gun Channels. It's just gunchannels.com. It's a free site. You can join, register your name. You don't have to use your real name when you make your username. I know a lot of people get nervous about that. You can make your username, you know, I like shooting, or if you want to. But essentially, come in, join the conversation. You can meet me. You can meet anybody here on the panel that came to watch today. You can meet all your favorite YouTube personalities that usually host shows every night throughout the week. Generally, weekends are up for grabs. I do a morning segment called Saturday Morning Gun Tunes. It's just a play on words, but generally what I do is I'll start up a lobby on a Saturday morning, usually 10, maybe 11 o'clock Central Time, usually following Caliber Corner with Travis P11. He does the only morning show on Saturday, and Rick's Life as I See It, I believe, starts at 2 p.m. Central Time. So I'll start it somewhere in between the two shows and just let it run, and then I'll go watch Rick's Life as I See It for an hour and just go quiet in my own lobby. But Saturday Morning Gun Tunes, I usually just stream a game that I play, because everybody on Gun Channels is either a closet foodie, a closet car guy, a closet gamer, you know, something. So there's something for everybody there. You might be a new shooter or a new reloader, and you might just be, you know, like I was. You became interested in guns because of the guns you played in your video games or something you saw in a movie. I just showed you the gun from Faster. I can show you the gun from Paris with Love. I can show you the rifle from Jurassic Park. I've got all of them. So, you know, find a way to make it fun for you and help sort of kill the stigma of, you know, they're just gonna jump out and kill you, because I sleep with the gun right next to my pillow every night and it hasn't shot me yet. Anyway, I want to thank you all for joining us today. This was the first of possibly more of these. If you have any questions or if you like what you see, please thumbs up and leave a comment. If there's a particular caliber you'd like to see, if I have it, I'll load it. If I don't have it, I could be persuaded to load it. If you want to send me brass and dies for it, I'll definitely load it. But, you know, just let me know what you think. If you liked what you saw, just, you know, let me know. But thanks for watching, and we'll see you later.